I'm Kayla Stanford,
I'm Luke Stanford.
and we live in Pulaski, Tennessee. We are the parents of Kennedy and Cruz, and Kennedy has MPS1.
How did you two meet and decide to start a family?
We met in high school.
Yeah.
We met. It was Luke's senior year.
Yeah.
And we've been together since 2012. We got married in 2015, so this year will be our 10th wedding anniversary. We had Kennedy in 2018, so we were married a few years before we decided we were ready for a kid. I went through nursing school the month after we got married, so it was a really rough time for us.
Yeah.
We went through a lot of ups and downs. Wasn't sure if we were even going to make it as a couple, but here we are now.
She made some chocolate chip cookies like in home ec class or something, and
You've been hooked ever since.
yeah.
When did you two find out you were expecting a child?
I'm pretty sure it was in October
Yeah.
of 17. We had just moved out of our rental home and moved in with his mom because we were looking for a house to buy. And we were tired of paying rent, and she had an extra room. So we decided short term we were just going to move in with her until we found a place like where we wanted to be.
Save some money.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't even a month after we moved in with her that I found out I was pregnant. I was at work when I just had this like notion to take a pregnancy test. I was like, something just feels weird. And so it was like midday, and I took one and it was positive. And so I gathered some little treats for him to surprise him.
She come home with like this little brown paper sack, a blanket. I open the blanket, I get it out, and it's this little baby blanket. I'm like, why do you have a baby blanket? She was like, just open it. It says something on it. And it was a pregnancy test, and I don't even know the words to describe how I felt. Really, it was scary, exciting, but
we were living with his mom.
yeah.
Can you share some of the emotions and thoughts you had when you first learned you were going to be parents?
I was excited. I was nervous, but I was excited. I come from a very broken home, so I think for me, just being the best I could for this child and being everything that I didn't have for this child, like, immediately ran through my head.
Yeah, for me, I was scared to death. I was young, still pretty wild. Didn't really know how I was going to settle down to take care of a kid, take care of her. I did, but I had a whole lot of growing up to do, like for myself, for her, spiritually, everything, really, just to try to become a better man, because I was bringing a life into the world. And I always said if I could just be half the dad that my dad's been to me, I'd be all right. And
At what point did you learn that your child would have a rare genetic disease?
We weren't even home a week, and I'm pretty sure it was 5 days after we had come home from the hospital after I birthed Kennedy, and I got the call from her pediatrician, from her personal cell phone, and it was like afternoon on a Friday. So immediately, like, you just have this gut feeling that comes upon you that's like, something's not right. Yeah. I go outside to the back porch and I take the call, and she was like, hey, I want to let you know that something on Kennedy's newborn screen popped up, and I really think that it's a false positive. It's a brand new test that was just added to the newborn screen. So we're just going to do a repeat newborn screening, go to the health department, have that done. And in the meantime, I'm going to have you set up with Vanderbilt Genetics. And when she said that, that's when I knew like something was not right. I think because it was such a new disease added to the newborn screen, I think that's also why she advocated and got us in with Vanderbilt Genetics so quickly. However, your gut knows. And I knew then that something wasn't okay. Kennedy also, if we look back on signs and symptoms of MPS before we ever knew it, looking back on things now, her palate was really high. She had a really narrow palate in her mouth. It made breastfeeding really hard. She did have this itty bitty little gibbous in her spine on her back. We didn't know anything. We didn't pay attention to it until after that first, like, oh, this is a major sign of MPS was brought to our attention.
I didn't want to believe any of it. You know, you hear it and then you're just like, no, it could be false, could be this, could be that. Never even heard of MPS ever. And you get a call saying that your kid has this on her newborn screening. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Everything will be fine. You know, we'll retest and make sure. So I just kind of shrugged it off, I guess. Didn't really want to believe it, but it's, here we are.
We went to Vanderbilt. We had confirmatory testing done, blood work on both of us. We had the same exact gene down to letter and number as far as mutation. And we got the call on June 20th that confirmed that Kennedy had MPS1. I remember when we even started this and going through like retesting for newborn screening, going to Vanderbilt, I truly just felt God's like presence and peace come over me and just give me a strength that I never had in my life. Because I knew then that I would end up having to be the rock through it all. And I was. You couldn't tell me that something wrong was going to happen. I fought and I got in community. I've become part of the MPS, Facebook groups, reached out and talked to many different moms that have gone through this. We started care for Kennedy at Vanderbilt. And I vaguely remember Allie reaching out to me. And like, she's so like advocating and like forceful, not in a bad way, but just like, this is what, like, hey, this is what's going on. This is where you think you need to go, that kind of thing. And I remember at the time, Vanderbilt's genetics had told us that they had treated 6 or 7 kids with MPS1. So in my mind, I'm like, hey, we got a hospital here in our hometown, basically, that knows what they're doing, that knows about this disease. We're in good hands. And we had started workup, and it was 8 weeks after we had started workup that I realized that they had lied to us as far as true treatment for MPS1 children. I pulled statistics, and they had only treated 3 MPS kids and with only 1 successful outcome. And it was then that I was like, we got to go. It was the night of one of her enzyme replacement therapies. It was her 8th enzyme replacement therapy. And I was like, laying in the bed with her, she was on my chest, and a mom in the MPS community that, I don't know, my attention was drawn to her. I was messaging her, and at the same time she was messaging me, and she sent her message like right before I sent mine, and it was almost like a guardian angel situation because I don't even know who she is. I don't know her name. I don't remember what her face looked like from her pictures. Whatever she said just ignited that light bulb of, Kelly, you got to move. Like, you got to get out of here. And then that's when we started care in Minneapolis for Kennedy. So she was right at 4 months old when she was transplanted.
How was the diagnosis made? Was it prenatal test, newborn?
It was through newborn screening originally, and then confirmatory testing through genetics. MPS was just added to the newborn screen for the state of Tennessee in May.
Yep.
Earlier May, and then Kennedy was born on the 30th of May.
What was your initial reaction when you heard the diagnosis?
For me, I felt like it was coming. Like, I already knew that it was, like, she was going to be diagnosed with it. We waited, 3 weeks or so?
Yeah,
and
3 weeks.
June 20th, she was fully diagnosed. So we waited about 3 weeks before we got confirmed she has MPS1. It was disheartening. I think at the moment because I had so much faith that, like, it was all gonna be okay. But I never got, like, at that time, I didn't get angry and was like, "Why would you do this to us, God?" Like, that feeling. I was just like, "Okay, we gotta move on, and what's next? Like, what do we gotta do next?" And that was, like, where my head was just, "Let's do what we gotta do, all that we can do, so that she has the best outcome for this."
You know, like, for me, I guess it was, I mean, obviously it was just heartbreaking, but like the man part of me, like, wants to be able to fix everything, you know, all the time. Want to be able to make everything okay for everybody. And like, I can remember, like, when they told us I was being strong, like, she told us, and she just broke down squalling. You know, my mom was there, she started crying, and I was still trying to be like, you know, Mr. Strong about everything, but I was until we got in the car, and then that's when I broke down. But she's 6 years old, and I still,
You're very reserved.
yeah, like, I just keep to myself about it, I guess. So it's just, it's something I can't fix. It's out of my hands, you know. And then, like she said, she wasn't like, "Why would you do this, God, to us?" I was. And that's where, like, having her, she's helped me a whole lot spiritually, just to try to live through all this, you know, and still be the best dad I can be for her.
Can you describe the treatments and interventions your child is currently going through?
Currently, we do not do ERT. We're not doing enzyme replacement therapy. We stopped that 100 days. Well, we stopped about 100 days post-transplant. And, like, once we traveled to come home from transplant, we were done with that. We don't do, like, any, like, medicine treatment. We do some holistic stuff like chiropractic care. One of Kennedy's major ailments is her spine. She does have kyphosis, that gibbous in the back of her spine, which has caused her a lot of pain. I would say year 2022, 23 is when she really started complaining of the back pain. It was constant. I've looked into several different chiropractors, reached out to different parents in the MPS community about chiropractic care, and we've started going to Premier Chiropractics in 23. And I was traveling 300 plus miles a week just to get her to the chiropractor 3 days a week to get her spine stable, because it was so subluxated and her nerves were so compressed and pinched that that's where a lot of that pain was coming from. She couldn't turn her head from side to side or, like, up and down without screaming, doing her hair, anything like that. That caused mobility in her cervical spine, caused her tremendous pain. I would say 6 months into chiropractic care, her pain decreased 80%. So that's what we've stuck with, and we do mainly is chiropractic care for her.
Yeah. It's went from 3 days a week to 1 day per week now.
Her maintenance, baseline maintenance,
Yep.
is once a week.
She's doing a lot. It helped a whole lot.
Yeah, it has. She has had stomach issues through this. I'm not sure if it was from the chemo or if it's part of MPS1. In my mind, I think it has to do with all the chemo that she went through. She's had a lot of stomach issues and pain, and where chiropractics does help with that, we've had to consult with GI, and so she does have to take medicine daily for that. She has a lot of indigestion, and she would just vomit in the middle of the night randomly, and, you know, not viral related, but. So when we started workup at Vanderbilt, they have their own little series or set protocol that they're going to follow for workup, leading to enzyme replacement, stem cell transplant. We met with the oncologist who let us know, like, this is where your disease is, or this is what the disease is. So when I would ask questions of what's prognosis, what's long-term for enzyme replacement, stem cell transplant, they could not tell me. They would say,
Always be Kennedy's going to tell us. And
they would say, I don't know, she'll teach us or she'll tell us. And this was when we were at Vanderbilt. So ultimately, when her oncologist sat down with us and talked to us about treatment options, they said, here's enzyme replacement. We can do this weekly for the rest of her life, but it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. Or you can do stem cell transplant / bone marrow transplant, and it does cross the blood-brain barrier. So she's getting those enzymes that she needs to her brain. ERT came into play because she was so little that we needed to build her up just a little bit until it was time to do transplant. So we decided we wanted to go and risk everything for stem cell transplant. It's like signing your child's life away, basically. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. All of the chemotherapy that they have to go through to kill off of their current cells in their body to receive new cells is so detrimental. We knew that stem cell was the way that we were going to go. She had to receive ERT up until it was time to transplant. During all of this, during enzyme replacement, they're looking for matches for stem cells. So the difference between bone marrow and stem cell is bone marrow is coming from another person, like living person, whereas Kennedy's stem cells came from an umbilical cord that was donated. We transitioned care midway through this. Vanderbilt had found Kennedy a stem cell or an umbilical cord that was, I don't know, I think it was like a 6 out of 10 match, something like that. And then when we went to Minneapolis, they found her like a 10 out of 10 match, everything. I mean, her blood type didn't even change through all of this. She was very blessed when it came to that. She was 4 months old. All of the chemo that she went through, it's not like an immediate effect. I know, I mean, you go through side effects like while she's receiving some of the things. One of the worst ones that was like immediate effect was called ATG, and it was rough. She went through lots of steroids, IV meds, like while inpatient, going through all these chemos, and ATG was the worst. It caused very high fevers, very uncomfortable. We didn't sleep. I don't remember ever sleeping through because there is even when his mother-in-law or my mother-in-law, his mama is amazing. She was my rock through all of this. She would travel back and forth often to the hospital to kind of help alleviate and give us a little bit of a break.
yeah, she was, you just have your first kid, been married for 3 years, and then all this happens. So I didn't want them to go all the way to Minnesota. That's 1,000 miles away from home, and they have no one. If they don't know anybody up there, anything. So between me and my mom and just family helping, it was still, I go back to this much, like the dad part of me wanted to be there, but I had to stay home and work, and like, it was super hard just knowing that your little girl is up there. And that's another thing, like, it's, when you're a dad and you have a daughter, it's kind of different, I guess. Like, you could say dads with daughters will understand what I'm talking about, but that's a long ways from home, and I felt helpless. I know she felt helpless. She was alone, and I had to work. I would fly up there, every weekend, every other weekend.
It's like every 2 or 3 weeks.
Try to get up there as much as I could. It was just, it was hard, and then you go up there one week and she's doing okay. Then you come home, and then the next week you go up there, it's like, she don't even have any hair. She's all, it was a struggle, but
That was hard.
yeah.
Through chemo, of course, the majority of chemo will kill hair off. So we knew like she was going to lose hair. You could have the choice of like just letting it fall out on its own or shaving it. And I think it was, we left it alone. We didn't really focus on that topic much going through like chemo and being inpatient until like she was laying on my chest and like wallering around, and like chunks of hair just started falling out on my chest, and I was like, I can't do this. We gotta shave it.
Yeah.
So we shaved her hair, and so there was that. And I remember like her like back and like body, like the backside of her body would like have bruising, and I guess it was just from blood thin, like her blood being thin, chemo, and mucositis, which is like basically like the intestinal lining in your mouth and all of that just gets very inflamed, blisters. So eating is typically not a thing through transplant. Thankfully, she was only 4 months old and just drinking bottles. And she was a trooper. She drank her bottles the majority of the time. I would say I only had to do a few bolus feeds of formula through her G tube. That was part of Minneapolis's like protocol, that they immediately placed a G tube before transplant, which I was very thankful for. I was scared at the time because it was a procedure another procedure she had to have done, but so thankful that that was their protocol, because I couldn't imagine having a tube ran down your throat and, your throat when you're already in pain. Part of the protocol is to have like pain management. And so morphine is one of the typical drugs that they would use. And you think about those names like morphine and fentanyl, and those are like serious, like pain management. So it's very scary. But they started her on morphine, and like her itch receptors went crazy due to the morphine. So she would just like sit and like dig at her face. So we had to swap to fentanyl. And eventually like we were able to like get off of that and like move to like hydrocodone or something lesser, that nature. But her milestones were affected just from all of the chemo and like setback that she had through that. But we worked really hard with her. I know I did. It's because I was with her primarily, just like building her strength up. I know she didn't start sitting up until she was probably after 6 months old. And she was still very weeble wobbly. She doesn't have that core strength. And she has pectus excavatum, which is a very deep divot into the chest. And then she had her like IV Hickman line that was placed in her chest. So tummy time was not a thing for her. She did not like being on her stomach at all. And then she had the G tube, which, there was that.
How old was she when y'all started this process?
We stayed at the Ronald, and so she started enzyme replacement at 6 weeks, and then we continued that up until, obviously we did we actually stayed on enzyme replacement. She still got that even through chemo and all that. However, her transplant day is on October 8th of 2018. So she was 4 months old. So she went through 8 days of 3 different types of chemotherapy until it was transplant day. Like your levels of cell have to be just right before they'll put those new cells in. And the day of transplant, of course, is a big day. Like you try to make that a celebratory day.
Yeah.
It
Second
still
birthday.
sucks, but one thing that I still think about and joke about is that she smelled like a can of cream corn. A preservative in the stem cells, the bag of stem cells that they give the kids, truly makes them smell like a can of cream corn. The minute they like released the IV for her to start getting the stem cells, the entire room smelled like a can of cream corn.
Yeah, you can smell it.
It's insane.
How did you go about finding the right medical care and specialists for Tandy's condition?
We were referred to Vanderbilt. However, without community, we wouldn't be where we are today. If it wasn't for me reaching out and being involved in community and being involved with other moms, we wouldn't know about Minneapolis. We wouldn't know that there are other hospitals that have more knowledge of MPS than the current one that, we had in our hometown.
knocking on Vanderbilt. It was just, we wanted the absolute best care possible for her, and we would consult with doctors in Minneapolis, and they could tell us things. It wasn't well, we'll do this and we'll just let Kennedy tell us. It was none of that. They were just,
I remember
they knew what they were talking about.
It was after 8 weeks of going through workup and treatment and all of that with, our hometown hospital, that that light bulb went off. And I was like, oh crap, I have mom friends that have been to Minneapolis. First it was like inquiring with Cincinnati, and then I was like, well, if we're gonna go 8 hours, we might as well go 1,000 miles and go all the way to Minneapolis. And I just remember being like on my hands and knees on the floor, like playing with her and like just crying over her, praying over her. And I got contact information for doctors and coordinators at Minneapolis. And within a 24-hour period, a coordinator had already reached out to me. Her transplant doctor himself called me at 6 a.m. the next morning and gave me a rundown of the entire disease, of how it would affect her hair follicles on the top of her head all the way down to her toenails, where I never got that information from anybody else. And within 2 weeks, they had a consult set up. We had flown out, to Minneapolis to meet with them. It was like round table conversation. A whole team of doctors, her transplant doctor, his coordinator, all in a room. Luke wasn't there. He stayed home. And at this point, Luke was still like, I don't want you to go. Why can't we stay, here at home? Why do you have to go 1,000 miles away? And, at that point understood like that he just felt like we were ripping Kennedy away from being at home. But after meeting and consulting with everyone in Minneapolis, I mean, it was immediate. We weren't even done with the entire consult, and I was like, this is where she's going to be transplanted. When they can give you prognosis and they can give you outcome and lifespan of your child, and that they have things set in stone and protocols that we had not seen or heard of before.
Yep.
It was then that I knew like this was going to be it. And you think about like insurance and like things of that nature. That wasn't even on my mind at the time. I didn't care about insurance. I didn't think about it not once. But in the middle of that, like the round meeting, the round table meeting that we were having in Minneapolis with everybody, Kennedy's transplant doctor's coordinator looked up at me and was like, oh, by the way, like she interrupted everybody that was talking. She was like, by the way, I just wanted to let you know your insurance was 100% within network. So I just knew that all things were working the way that they should, so that we could be where we were in Minneapolis for Kennedy.
And that'll get us through like a section. Have there been any significant medical milestones or setbacks in this journey?
I wouldn't
Kennedy,
necessarily say significant, because
it's depend on what scale you're looking at, right? Because every child has different setbacks within MPS. It's not cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Depending on when you're diagnosed, when you get treatment, is, I feel like, a big part of how your outcome is going to be. For Kennedy, hers has been her back and the back pain, her cervical's, her neck pain. Like, we notice little things like she's not as fast as other kids or can do as much flexibility type things as other children. But as far as that, she doesn't know any different. She's hanging with the best of them.
Well, and if you didn't know her,
And
you just go to like her little school play or something, you'd have
you would never
like
know.
no idea. She's a little miracle baby.
Okay. What are some of the day-to-day challenges your family faces because of the disease?
Outbursts, lots of energy. And her neuropsychologist has even said that's now one of the new symptoms and findings of MPS is behavioral issues with ADHD, sensory issues. Kennedy can easily become unhinged over the littlest thing. So that, and then of course, just the back pain that she's gone through. Even though we're doing chiropractic care, she still has flare-ups. Long travel in the car eats her up. I mean, we have to either pull over and stop and let her stretch, or she just has to unbuckle and stretch for a minute and then buckle back up. Well, she can be in different positions, not in the car, and say, like, my back's hurting, or you'll find her standing the majority of the time. Like, she doesn't sit down to eat, she stands. She's always in some upside down position. Like, she's in a position that's like weird looking, but that's what's comfortable to her.
How's Kennedy's condition affected your family's daily routine and dynamics?
We did go through like more than what I feel like, your healthy, average, normal child would go throughout the year. She has stomach issues, dental issues. She has a lot of dental problems, vision, ENT. She had surgery to have tonsils removed, adenoids removed. She has sleep apnea. So those are all things that we go through. I feel like we're at the doctor every month. For some type of specialty, we're there. And we don't realize how much we go because that's the life we live.
Yeah, maybe it's just normal to me.
It is normal to us. And then it just changes your outlook on life as far as living in the moment, being present for today, and not worrying about what tomorrow brings, but just making it through today and not focusing on the little frivolous things, where everybody has their own setbacks and their own like trials and tribulations in their life. It just makes you kind of like look at what we would have complained of as irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there specific moments or events that stand out as particularly challenging or rewarding?
Kennedy doing as good as she's doing in school.
Yeah, that's very
It's
rewarding.
Very, very rewarding. Her intelligence level is amazing. She's not been set back in any way with that. As far as like extracurricular activities and sports, we haven't really got to do much of that. She did dance, and she backed out of dance after a few months because of the back pain, which really, really was disheartening because I thought that dance would be like the easiest thing on her, and her dance teachers were amazing. They worked with her. They let her take breaks. They didn't make her do some of the stuff that the other kids were doing, and also making her not feel like that was abnormal either. But she just, I guess because it was so stressful on her body that she was like, I'm done. I can't do this. And so now she's talking about how she's wanting to do soccer, and the mama heart in me is like, I don't know that that's going to work out for you either, but I have to let her do it and have to let her figure it out on her own of what her limitations are on her own body. With her having the pectus excavatum, it suppresses the heart and the lungs to some degree. So we follow up with that on a frequent basis. It could get to the point where she has to have her entire like chest cracked open and redone.
I say like her heart doesn't have enough, like she wants to go run for a long time, and her heart is just expanding a bunch. Her pectus is in the way of that, but we've done x-rays and everything, and like her heart is shifted over, like her organs is just moved around to compensate for her body, so.
How has this experience affected your emotional and mental well-being as parents?
I am just very much the type of like, let's move forward. Let's do what we got to do to fix it, and let's keep going. Life can't stop. Suck it up, buttercup. Like, that's just my mentality. So I just roll with the punches and we get through it. But I definitely have my moments when it's typically like to myself, and it like hits heavy of, I don't know what the future holds for her. I don't know what's going to happen with her spine, what's going to happen with her hips and legs, and as far as will we have to have surgeries in the future. What's going to happen with her pectus. Like that's one of them. They've talked more about doing surgery on her for that than they have for anything else.
Yeah.
And then that's like huge. So you think about like all the what ifs, and it's a constant mourning because it is a terminal disease that is not curable. So although we did go through all that we went through to give her longevity and a better outcome in life, we are still facing all of the same things that this disease presents, but in a longer stretched out period. So we just kind of watch it take a toll every second, every minute of the day, just take little pieces of her away, and you can't fix that.
Like I said, I used to go deer hunting every morning, every evening. Get home, I got coon dogs. Get home, go coon hunting. Like I was never home, and it's just made me settle down and want to just live in the moment with my family and my kids more, because like she said, you don't never know like what tomorrow's gonna hold with her. So just settle down and be here for your kids.
Mm.
How do you cope with the stress and emotional toll of Kennedy's condition?
Unhealthy.
Yeah,
Have
very.
coffee. I don't know that I have to, like, some people have exercise as their outlet, whatever. I just roll with it. I think I have a coffee addiction.
Yeah,
It's my emotional support drink.
I don't deal with it, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. Like I don't want to. I wish I could just make it all disappear, and I don't know if it's a good mindset to have about it or not, but like I'm here for her for anything, but I try to avoid all of like this. It gets to me big time, so I kind of just steer away with it and just deal with it on my own, on my way to work, on my way home from work. Like if they're not home, you have time to yourself to cope with everything, but it's definitely hard.
I'm the opposite on a serious note. Community is for me. Other moms that have gone through this, other moms that get the aggravating things, the annoyances of medical teams not knowing what MPS even stands for, or having someone turn you down again, or no, I don't want to do care on her because of her disease, or I'm scared. Like people look at your child like they're scared of them because of their disease and what her body presents or all that she's been through. So just having community and having those that can relate to me on a level that they've experienced it too. I have best friends and I have an amazing family, but they don't understand the way that another mom has walked through this with, and having those few people to be close to and like reach out to is nice when you need it.
Had you received support from family, friends, or support groups? And how has this support impacted your journey?
We've received more support than we could ever have imagined.
Yep.
Through reaching out to community. I will say if you suppress and you keep yourself quiet and balled up, I mean, nobody knows if you don't say something, right? So speak up, speak out. But the MPS Society was the number one big help at first because we didn't have any other resource at the time. But as things started to unfold, having Facebook groups for MPS, other moms just like coming out of the woodworks just to say, hey, I'm here for you. Let me know what you need. Giving you advice on certain things that they've been through was huge. And then just our community rallied huge for Kennedy as far as financially and supported us in a way that I could have never asked or dreamed of. Uh, it helped us tremendously through her transplant. I don't know that we would even have the house that we have now or been able to have kept our house without community and support.
Like we made a bunch of new friends. Also, other families that's been through it. We keep in touch with several families, and just like Allie and Ryan, we've we met some really nice people.
Mm.
Have you become involved in any advocacy or awareness efforts related to Kennedy's disease?
We have become more involved with the Kennedy Lad Foundation. I love Ryan and Allie. I love what they do. I wish I could do it full time. I do advocate quite a bit through social media on Kennedy's disease and just educational posts. And then wearing shirts, t-shirts, and I've had a lot of people just reach out and be like, hey, what does this mean? Or what's on your shirt? I noticed the purple ribbon. Does it mean this? Or what does MPS stand for? And there's a lot of people who have followed our journey that still doesn't even know the half of what MPS1 is. And it's because you cannot describe it in a paragraph.
What do you think the public should know about families dealing with rare genetic diseases?
There's not enough resources. There's not enough knowledge. There's not enough awareness, right? So we're adding MPS1 to newborn screenings all over, right? When we started, I think newborn MPS was only on 11 newborn screens out of the entire United States. And now, like, it's tripled in number. But we're adding this, but you have your pediatricians and your doctors who are receiving the screening back and are like, I don't even know what this is. Like, we don't even know the severity of this. And this is so time sensitive. Like, we can't wait 6 and 7 months to get in with genetics or to receive results to then start therapy and treatment for our children because it is that time sensitive. All the damage that's being done before transplant happens is there. It's not irreversible. So cognitive delays, physical delays, all of that that's done to your children stays that way. And all because of an ignorance that there is not enough word and awareness of the disease itself. You might not be the person that can make all the difference, but 10 shares down the road, there might be somebody sitting on $5,000 that's like, hey, I'm waiting to give this to a good cause. Or, whatever it may be. Or they might put you in the hands of the right person. And it really is all about word of mouth, talking, spreading. Like, hey, this is what we got going on. This is what we need to do. The right person's out there to help you.
Yep.
But if there's not any spread, nobody will know.
What are your hopes and dreams for Kennedy's future?
My hope is that she can live semi-comfortably through adulthood.
Yep.
And not have severe ailments. There's only 30 years, maybe a little more, of true database and research on MPS. 30 is midlife for some people, right? So we really don't know what can be held in the outcome for Kennedy. And the majority of the research that is there is on so much different treatment options and what they were doing in the past versus what Kennedy's had done. So I feel like she truly is, and the babies that were transplanted with the same protocol and around the same time frame and age are just a new generation of treatment. Whereas they really might have such a better outcome in life. They might get to go through and live through adulthood and be on their own, have their own house, be able to have a spouse, be married. Those are the things. Those are such little things that everybody expects that you get to do in your life. Well, we don't know if our own child is going to get that.
Yep.
So we don't know what the outcome of her disease is going to be.
If you could give advice to another parent in a similar situation, what would you say?
Hit your knees.
Of course, God first, but reach out. Reach out, because if it wasn't for some of the moms that I had on my side just to help talk me through things or help piece together the puzzle for me, I don't know what I would have done. Community really is everything when it comes to something like this.
Yep.
You can't do this on your own.
No. It takes a village.
I think for Kennedy, with her age, she doesn't know. She doesn't know what MPS is. I mean, she's lived a life of living in a hospital, medical appointments, having things done. She's the toughest thing you'll ever meet. I mean, a child that is sedated every 3 to 6 months and going through procedures because that's the normal for them, and she just has to have it done. She doesn't know that that's not normal. When she asks questions, we answer them, and I explain them to the best of my ability on her level. But to present the disease of saying, "Hey, this is what you have, and this isn't like what other kids have," or "This isn't normal," is not something that we ever push on Kennedy.
Yeah.
She thinks that she is the rock star of this earth, and that's all that matters.
On your own. And so, with that information at hand, and when you saw what the life expectancy was, tell me what that life expectancy was and how that made you feel.
At first, when her pediatrician let us know that what was going on, she just gave me the abbreviation of the disease, and she was like, "I'm not going to give you any more detail, only because I know how you are, and I don't want you to freak out yet. We don't have a confirmed diagnosis." But when it came down to after confirmatory testing, that's when I looked more into it, and the information that typically just pops up for MPS1 is so outdated. What a lot of children do look like, the imaging that is, posted on Google for MPS1, so much has changed.
I didn't know what to think, what we were fixing to go through, and then the doctors are telling you might bury your kid by the time she's 10 years old, all this.
The life expectancy that we were given without treatment, and this was from her oncologist starting out at our hometown hospital, was a life expectancy of 10 to 15 years with no treatment. We looked at our little girl and was like, we may only have her for 10 years.